Hello, this is Rohini Rathore, and today I'm going to be talking on the very meaty topic of finding purpose. Purpose isn't some big, great, grand thing that we must spend many hours meditating or going up into the mountains or, really waiting until we are at a certain age to think about. Purpose is something that really exists in our everyday lives. And I think if we can start to live life in a more purposeful way, whether it's in the small things we do or whether it's in the big things we aspire to do, you will realize that actually that is where fulfillment really lies. Anyway, with that brief introduction, I want to share today some very simple ways in which you can go about finding purpose in your own life. And whether it's your personal life or your professional life, the very, very same principles apply. So, first off, a purpose without a goal is a dream, and a goal without a purpose is drudgery. So, if you're in a job where you really don't understand why you do what you do, and the only reason you do it is because it pays the bills, and because without it, you would be struggling financially, it's all about the money, then you will understand what I mean. That is not living a fulfilled, purposeful life. On the other hand, there are many people who have a purpose in their head. They feel that they have the ability to create something amazing, but they never achieve anything because they don't actually translate that thing in their head into any sort of meaningful action. So I think you need really a goal and a purpose together to create something amazing and fulfilling. The thing that generally stops most of us is the great unknown. I mean, who here enjoys the unknown? Because, we want to know what's ahead of us. We want to be able to plan. We want to be able to be, prepared for things that are going to happen for us to feel comfortable, which is why we all have our own comfort zone, whether it's so where you live, where you work, things are predictable, things are easier to manage. It's when you go outside of that comfort zone, suddenly all these scary things start to loom and you don't really want to face them. But here's the thing, that in the unknown are also some amazing things, beauty, creativity, friendships. I mean, some of your most meaningful relationships today were created out of the unknown. Not everybody in your life is somebody you were born with or is part of your family or your original ecosystem. So I think, how do we find the balance? How do we appreciate that our comfort zone won't always stay the same? There might come a time when it completely disappears or it shrinks so that you have to step out. So it's actually learning how to do that is actually a huge part of finding purpose. So it comes down to how you see life and your role in it. Are you somebody who sees life happening to you, or do you see it as happening for you? So if you're somebody who sees life happening to you, especially the adverse events, the bad things that happen in your life, if you're somebody who sort of always looks to find someone to blame, to wait to be rescued when something bad has happened to you because you feel unable to do anything for yourself, then chances are you will be seen to have a victim mentality or a victim mindset. This doesn't mean to say that we're not all sometimes victims. We all have bad things happen to us. We may be victims of an accident or an unfortunate event, um, and then we become victims. But it's what you do once something like that has happened to you and once you have been faced with adversity. That's what decides whether you continue to remain a victim or whether you become an owner. So the difference between a victim and an owner is an owner takes responsibility for what happens um, to them, but also what's going to happen next. So you don't wait for someone to rescue you. You don't look for people to blame. You just say, well, this has happened to me. It's not ideal. I'm in a pretty difficult position, but I am going to now take ownership of how I deal with this and how I pull myself out of this. So when you are of an owner mindset, you begin to live this beautiful philosophy that the best way to predict your future is to create it, not from the known, but from the unknown. So you don't take what you already know and extrapolate from that. You become willing to accept that there is so much out there that is interesting, that is, intriguing, that is inspiring, that is completely unknown at the moment, but it doesn't mean to say it's not going to help you if you venture out into it. So here I want to share you a very simple step-by-step process of finding purpose in your life. But bear in mind, just because something is simple does not mean it's easy. So if you find this hard to do by yourself, I invite you to find somebody who, will be your buddy, who will be your partner, and who will, alongside you, help you really to get the most out of these exercises. Okay. And failing that, you can obviously you can reach out to me, as a coach and as somebody who doesn't know you, who can give you a very, very objective way of looking at things. So the first step is to know yourself. So I want you to create these three lists. Now, if you're doing this with me, you can get a pen and paper and you can start working on this. Or obviously, you can always come back to this video and pause, take your time over this. The first set of lists that you're going to create three lists. And these lists are going to help you to really get to know yourself, who you are, and what it is that you do that makes you unique. So, list number one is the things that give you joy. What do you love doing that makes you happy, that makes you feel at peace, or gives you a sense of well being? What are those things? They could be things that you do in your current life, but really, I want you to go back to your childhood and remember the things you did as a child that gave you a lot of joy. The reason that's important is because in your current life, you may be very busy. You may have lots of responsibilities and you don't really have a lot of time for yourself. But I want you to connect with who you are, the child you once were, and the things that once gave you joy that maybe you no longer make the time for. But if you became aware of them, you might create the time for them. So that's your first list. Your second list is what things are you good at and what skills do you possess? Now, these two are slightly different things. So, when we talk about skills, generally most people think about CV. What can I put on my CV? So, I would encourage you to move away from the language of the CV, which is a little bit restrictive, it's a bit jargonistic, it's about things that you feel are value added in a workplace. There are probably many, many more things that you do in your everyday life that you don't even think about because you do them so easily, but are actually adding value to other people. So it could be things like, you're a great cook, or you could be really good at, holding your friendship group together. Maybe you're great at organizing parties. Perhaps you're fantastic at decluttering and, organizing small spaces to make them most ergonomical. Okay, so you get my drift. So just be very, very generous, compassionate, and expansive in the things that you put on your list. No one else needs to see them. It's your list. And finally, and this is quite a big one, what are your values and your core beliefs? Now, this is going much beyond the things that we generally say are our values. Like most people say, honesty is my value, integrity. Well, those things are learned values. Those are things that society, our families, our ecosystems have told us need to be our values. But the values we're really talking about are the things that actually make or break relationships, whether it's in your workplace or whether it's in your personal life. So I want you to think about examples of when you broke off a really, really long term relationship, or you broke off a relationship with someone who you really loved, whether it's a friend or a partner or even in a marriage. And what were the reasons that you felt you had to walk away from that person? Because the reasons why you felt you had to leave that person will tell you that the opposite of those things are your values. Equally, you could look at people who you really admire, who you aspire to be more like. They could be role models in, public life, or they could be people in your personal life that you know very well. And those are people whose values you resonate with. So either they mean it means either that you have the same values, or it means that those are the kind of people that would complement you very well. So even if you don't have the same values as them, but they are filling a gap in what you bring to this world. Okay, so those are two ways of thinking about it. This is a little bit of a complicated exercise, but when you actually really understand your core values and non negotiable beliefs, you will suddenly find that finding the right people, the finding the right job opportunities, recruiting the right people for your team, or even finding the right life partner becomes so much easier. So these three lists actually will tell you who you are and what makes you unique. Now, when you put these three lists into sort of buckets, you might have a very long list, and you can then condense it into this kind of Venn diagram. And you may find that actually doing that gives you that sweet spot, the zone of fulfillment in which you are in the flow, because the things you do in there give you joy, they're things that you're good at, and they really resonate with your values. And that is being in the flow state and leading a life of purpose. Now, remember what we said about having a purpose is one thing, but you need to have goals and you need to turn that purpose into action. So, the next set of steps is going to help you to do that. So, you first of all, you may have a purpose, but at this stage, your purpose may be based on things that you already know and you already do. So, you're still, relatively speaking, in your comfort zone. So, if you remember that whole unknown piece that we talked about, that's where you really come into your own. You really start to explore what's possible for you. So I want you to look at these four images. Now, obviously, we're not doing this live, so I don't actually have you in front of me. So I can't ask you this question and see what your answer to this question would be. But if you could just consider these four images and answer the question, what do you think connects these images? And I'm going to tell you what the answer is because we don't have a lot of time. But what actually the common factor between these four images is actually sand. And you can see there's a sand castle, there's these marbles, because remember, glass is made from sand, and there's solar panels, and there's a stained glass window in a place of worship. Now, what am I trying to say with these four images? Imagine I have a conversation with a grain of sand, and I say to this grain of sand, let's call this grain of sand Sandy, okay? Sandy, what do you see is your potential? What's the best you can be? And so Sandy looks around the beach and spots this beautiful sandcastle. And Sandy thinks, well, that looks like, something I could be part of. Obviously, I'm going to have to come together with lots of other grains of sand, and some very creative person will have to put us together and create this beautiful sandcastle. And so that's what Sandy thinks is the best thing that she can be in her lifetime. Now, what Sandy doesn't know is that she, when combined with other things, other chemicals, other ingredients, when she's put through a lot of heat and pressure and chemical processes, that she can come out at the other end looking like nothing she even recognizes in the form of glass. And then that glass can be molded and shaped and painted into some amazing things which give joy, which have beauty, and which have lasting value. So if you think about the marbles, the joy it brings, think about the stained glass window in a place of worship that could last hundreds of thousands of years, or equally something a bit more practical like solar panels that will generate electricity and power so many homes and businesses for 25 years or more. So, what's different between a grain of sand and you is that you have imagination, you have creativity, you have the ability to change things, and most importantly, you have the ability to reinvent yourself without waiting for someone else to come and do it for you. So now that you know that, I want you to think, have you really been living life like a potential stained glass window? Or have you been living life like that sandy grain of sand who thought the best she could be was a sandcastle? Now, the sandcastle, when compared to these other three things, has a very limited life. No one's going to remember it. Whereas in these other three scenarios, you have a much longer life you have a chance of leaving a legacy. So the question is, how might you be limiting yourself? Is it because you just don't know what is truly possible for you, or is it that you have put labels and limitations on yourself based on what you have achieved so far, what you've experienced so far, that have now stopped you from trying something new? So I want you to go and think about that. What are the labels that are limiting you? These labels could be born out of weaknesses or things that people have said that have hurt your feelings or have criticized you for, that you have now decided that you are not good at. Or it could be things that you are actually really good at, to the point where you are now so successful that it's scary to try something new and begin from the bottom and, basically risk failure. Both of those things are holding you within your comfort zone and stopping you from exploring something new and something amazing. And in that process of discovering that, again, you're going to find your purpose. The third and final step is to get really clear on how you can translate purpose into contribution, i.e., how you can make a difference. So this is where your unique value proposition comes into place. Now you can use this in your personal life. You can use it in any business that you've created for yourself, whether it's as an entrepreneur or whether within the job that you currently do. It can also be used when you actually go out there looking for a new role, or a pay rise or promotion within your existing place of work. So your value creation is reliant on these four things. The first is, what problem is there that you're really good at solving? This problem needs to be more than something you have solved for just yourself. So this problem needs to be bigger than just you. So if you've solved a problem that you're confident that you have a great solution for, it could be something like, I don't know, maybe you're really, really good at decluttering a space and, interior design, and you've done this for yourself. You've done this in your own home, and you were able to do it with, minimal budget. And maybe you're just happy to do it for yourself, or maybe you're happy to do it for family members. Or it could be that you see this as something a lot of people are facing. There's a huge desire to declutter in a sustainable way, and you think, well, I've done it for myself and I haven't spent a lot of money. I've upcycled things, I've created something new out of something that was old and, of no use anymore. You get my drift. And you suddenly realize there's an opportunity here that goes beyond what you've done for yourself. Then you think, well, who are the people who might have this problem and who actually actively want their problem to be solved? Because not everybody who has a problem wants it to be solved, but that's another whole discussion. So that's going to be your target audience. And within your wider target audience will actually be potential clients. And then you're going to think about, how is it going to benefit them? Because, for those of you who are marketing executives, you will know, you know, it's always about benefits, not features. Your product or your service may have some amazing features, but people don't really care if they don't resonate with how that's going to help them, how you're going to make their life better. Remember, people don't care what you know. People want to know that you care. So always make it about them. Make it about how they're going to benefit from you coming in and solving the problem. And finally, last but not least, see, this three-step process has already told you why you do this, why solving this problem means so much to you. Perhaps you have a personal story, your secret sauce, a secret recipe that you bring that is unique to you. And then that's when you share that with others, to people who belong with you, are kind of like your corporate soulmates. They're the people who actually resonate with your values, resonate with your story, and actually want to benefit from your expertise. They will be drawn to you. So in these four sort of boxes in the grid is really your unique value creation. And ultimately, it's answering these four questions. What problem are you good at solving? Whom can you help? How are you making things better for them? And why they should choose you. The why is really where your purpose comes into play. And finally, I want to just spend a little bit of time on that value creation that we talked about, the benefits to someone, how do you know how to define or articulate what benefits you are bringing to somebody and somebody's life? So whatever product, service, proposition that you are willing to spend time and money on, these are 5 generic ways in which they can add value. First is, it saves you time, it saves you money, it frees up time. So, for example, let's take an example of a say you have a factory where you're producing certain widgets, and you have some machinery which currently is producing 10 of these a day. Okay, now you have been sold a particular enhancement to this machinery, which means that it runs faster. So now you're not producing 10, but you're actually producing 15. So it's a 50% uplift on what you were doing before. So what it means is that if you only wanted 10, you can run that machinery for less time and still get the same output. So you've saved time. Or conversely, you could now, with the same time you were spending before, you can get 50% additional output, so you're more productive. Now, it could be that that piece of addition to that machinery also makes your machinery more fuel efficient, which means that you're saving money. So now you think about the productivity. It's not just you're producing more, but you're producing more for less. Now, freeing up time and making more money may be slightly tied in with one another. Let me just clarify. Freeing up time would be that, imagine that you only want 10 of these produced a day because you don't have demand for any more. If it's a perishable good or if it has a limited life, then you're not interested in just churning out more of these. But it means that because you have to run it for less time, you have freed up time for yourself, in which you can do something which is more value added for you. It may be tangible or it could be intangible. And that in itself is adding value to you. And finally, the benefit could be that you are enhancing the quality of someone's life. You're bringing them joy, peace of mind, good health, security, etc. These are things that are intangible, and they are not something that you can necessarily put a price on. Now, I'm not saying that when you think about your own value creation, that you have to have all 5 of these. I mean, if you did, that's amazing. So you need to find a way of conveying that to your potential customer or your client or employer. However, if you find that you cannot articulate even one of these 5, then your value creation is either non-existent or you're not able to communicate it to somebody convincingly enough for them to buy it. So it's always going to stay in that dream zone that we talked about. You're never going to be able to convince anyone of your purpose or to actually partake in the value that you want to give them. I hope that makes sense. So those are the things. And this is just a little bit about me, in case you're wondering, who is this woman who's been talking at us all this time? So I help leaders to become more self-aware, deepen self-belief and exercise greater control in all situations, especially in times of adversity and conflict. And ultimately, I think it's all about really connecting with who you are, what your life's purpose is, and going out into the world and delivering on it to make a difference. So if this is all of interest to you, obviously get in touch. You know where to reach me. And I do apologize for the ding ding sound you heard. Obviously, I forgot to turn off a few tabs, but that was quite a lot to pack in to this video. But I hope you found it helpful. Take your time, don't rush. And as I said before, if it helps, get somebody to do this with you, because it's so much easier when somebody can help you tease out things about yourself that maybe even you don't see.